Hey, Harris Nation, welcome back. The last time we spoke, I introduced you all to the topic of nutritional priorities, and it was set up in a pyramid format due to an author named Eric Helms. Now, some of you really liked it. Some of you had a lot of great comments, but a lot of you were really concerned because you didn't necessarily like the fact that total calories was the most important thing on the nutritional guideline pyramid here. A lot of you were very adamant that, yeah, it does matter what kind of macronutrients you take into your body, and not all calories are the same. And I'm not going to disagree with that, and neither does this pyramid, really. What it really talks about, though, is if you are going to lose or gain weight, the most important factor are total calories, either in a deficit or a surplus, to lose or gain weight. The next most important thing are the macronutrient profiles. All right. And so, yes, you were correct in that regard that macronutrient profiles do matter. This video is going to explain a little bit about that and hopefully help clear up maybe some of the confusion of what macronutrients are and maybe what some of these diets are and why they are successful and why maybe they're not. All right. So what are the macronutrients? So the word macro or the prefix macro just means a lot or large, right? It's in large amounts. So these are the nutrients that your body needs to take in large amounts in order for it to just do work, right? And these are typically energy consuming or energy containing type nutrients. And there's three major ones. It's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and they're in pretty much every food that you eat, right? In some degree or another. Carbohydrates tend to be your body's primary energy source. Your body will break down carbohydrates into simple sugars and will use it for quick energy. Protein, of course, is used to rebuild tissue, hair, skin, nails, muscle. Even like your organs and stuff like that, as they're broken down, they need to be rebuilt with proteins. And fats are also a good energy source. They're usually more of a energy storage type of macronutrient, but they also do help greatly with hormone regulation. All right. So the question kind of goes back to, aren't all calories the same? Now, if you look at a calorie, right, a calorie is really a unit of heat, right? It's actually a unit of heat. So how much your body uses as energy is given off as heat. So carbohydrates, there's 4 calories per gram of every carbohydrate. Same with protein. Now fats have the most calories per gram of any of the macronutrients, and so that's why a lot of people think, well, I need to have a diet that's low in fat because there's so many calories in fat. Well, that is kind of true, all right, but I'm here to say, a lot of people are like, well, does it matter? A calorie is a calorie. A calorie, if we go back to my example from last time where I need to consume about 3,000 calories per day just to maintain. If I had all 3,000 calories from fat, does that matter? If it's 3,000 from fat, or if I got all 3,000 from protein, or if I got all 3,000 from carbohydrates, does it really matter? Aren't they all the same? Well, the correct answer would be no, not at all. Your body is a very complex machine. All right, there's lots of factors that go into how your body metabolizes these macronutrients. All right, they're not all taken in by the body the same way. And I don't have a lot of time to really explain all of them, but I would like to share 2 examples with you. And the first thing is called the thermic effect of food, meaning how much energy is lost just by metabolizing these macronutrients. So I like this little chart here. There's some information. There's tons of information online. I'm just going to share 2 things with you. But this one I thought was really interesting is that when you consume fat, your body is so adapted to processing and using fat as energy that it only is going to use 2 to 3% of that energy to actually process it and metabolize it. So that means if you were to consume 100 calories of fat, right, it would only need 2 grams of that for energy. The other 98 grams would go into your body for energy and for storage. Carbs, your body is also very efficient at processing carbs. Now, protein is not a very good energy source. All right, your body actually has a harder time metabolizing protein for energy and consuming it, because so much of it needs to be broken down. All those tissues need to be broken down. It takes a while for your body to actually do it. So 25 to 30% of the energy and protein is actually lost due to the heat of metabolizing that. So, in a way, this is one of the reasons why high protein diets do end up helping people lose weight, because even though they might be consuming the same amount of calories as somebody that's eating a normal balanced fat and carbohydrate and protein diet, people who consume mostly protein and replace those calories that would be going to carbohydrates and fats with protein end up losing a lot of weight because they're burning so many more calories just by the body burning those proteins up. All right. So that's one reason why not all calories are the same. The other thing I wanted to share with you is something called the satiety index. So satiety just means like how full does a food make you feel? All right. So I have two examples on the screen here. So we have like a donut and an apple. And, in all honesty, these are about the same as far as calories go. And then, if you look at like taste wise, you might think a donut is tastier. Some people don't like donuts. They think apples are tastier. But what we're talking about here is how full does a certain food make you feel? Donuts, like a lot of processed pastry or bakery or baked type goods, actually have very low satiety index scores. And that's probably the reason why I can eat an entire box of donuts and still not be that full. All right. If I eat one apple, though, because it tends to be like foods that are like really high in fiber, foods that have a high water content, actually have a very high fulfilling factor. Their satiety index is higher, and I might not eat as many apples. In fact, I don't eat dozens of apples. I, can finish one and then I feel pretty good. So if you had a choice between an apple and a donut, even though they had the same calories, you might want to go ahead and go with the apple just because it'll actually make you feel more full and less likely to eat or overeat more food. Now, there's a lot of other things that take into account here that I have only went over two, but there's other ways that your body takes into the equation. Some of it has to do with the way that certain hormones are produced by certain foods and how those hormones affect how hungry or how full you are, and certain mechanisms that go on with that. But that's really a time for a different video, and that would take a really long time to actually go through all those. But I have some references for you at the end of this one, so stay tuned. Okay. So really what we're talking about here is what should your macro profile look like? Meaning, if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight or just eat healthy, what should your macronutrient profile look like? Like how many grams of fat, how many grams of protein, and how many grams of carbohydrates should you be eating? All right, so what I'm going to do is let's go back to my example from the tdeecalculator.net. Remember, that was the total daily energy expenditure website. And let's take a look at what that says. So this was my little profile here. It has my stats at the top. This is basically what I kind of put in there. 40-year-old male, 245 pounds, 6 feet 2 inches tall, light exercise, once or twice a week, really. I don't put in my body fat percentage. You could do that, but if you don't know it, it's okay. And we kind of touch base here that says, really, if I wanted to maintain my current body composition and weight, I would need roughly 2,875 calories per day. All right. Now, if you wanted to go down a little bit, and some of you already told me like, hey, this website was really cool. There's some really neat things here. If you scroll down about halfway through, you'll see a section called macronutrients. And there are 3 tabs: maintenance, cutting, which would be losing weight, and then bulking for those of you that wanted to put on some weight. Maintenance calories, they had 3 little calculators here as far as what I could do as far as maintenance weight. All right. So if I want to just maintain my weight and consume 2,875 calories per day, there were 3 options that I could have. They all end up calculating, right, to 2,875 calories. There's a moderate carb, a low carb, and a higher carb. So for those of you that want to go low carb, notice how there's a lot higher protein in grams, more grams in fat, but less carb. Remember, it's lower carb, not zero carbs. You don't want to like completely get rid of carbohydrates. All right. Now, if I wanted to cut, let's say I wanted to lose, some body fat. If you notice, it gives a little bit of a description here. This reflects a deficit of 500 calories per day, which is what most people would recommend. That would end up being about a pound of fat per week. All right, and so this is what it would recommend. Now notice it's fewer calories, it's 500 less. The protein or the fat loss with lower carb, higher carb, and moderate carb is still there. And it sort of kind of gives you a little example of what to follow. So I encourage you to kind of play around with this site. Now, if you go down a little bit more, there are some calorie tracking tools that it says would be really great for you to have. A food scale, this is really good if you're not really familiar with like quantities of food and like how much those things really are. A bathroom scale, periodically weigh yourself, but remember, we're not really talking about weight here. We're talking about body composition. So I would be wary about getting a bathroom scale. But I wouldn't mind this last one here. A lot of you already have this, the MyFitnessPal app. I think this is a really good app. The free version is really good. They have a premium version, which is even better. The premium version actually has macronutrient breakdowns for you. All right. So if you wanted to kind of invest in something that, if you're really into it, I recommend just trying doing the free one first just to see if you can be committed to inputting your food. There's a ton of stuff in there already. So you don't really have to like enter every single calorie. You could actually do like a real simple search and it'll pull up everything that you pretty much are eating on a regular basis. So here's some more information if you're interested. Remember, this is just part two of the pyramid. We're going to keep going through the list here and seeing if we can provide more information for you. Remember, we're prioritizing our nutritional priorities or our nutritional goals. First one was calories, knowing what our total calories are. And the second one, which is still very, very important, is your macronutrient breakdown. I have some resources here if you'd like to take a look at it. The first two are the same from the first video. The second one was an article on other ways why a calorie is not a calorie. If you want to press pause here before we end, this would be a great way to take a look at a video or take a look at an article that helps explain it in more detail. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys so much. And let me know if y'all have any questions. We can add it to another video in the future. Thank you.